Scan Pro Video brings you a series of webinars focusing on the latest Blackmagic design products and information. This session is hosted by technical sales specialist Chris Javin from Blackmagic Design, and he'll be taking an in-depth look at the Pocket Cinema camera line, highlighting key technology, usage scenarios, and what makes these products unique.
Thanks for joining us today, and a big thanks to Scan for giving us their platform, obviously, for the webinar today. So massively appreciated, and yeah, thanks for joining us, and I hope you find it useful. So just a quick intro. Chris Javin here from the technical sales specialist team at Blackmagic Design EMEA. Today, I'm really excited to bring you a brand new webinar focusing on the recently announced Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro. This camera expands upon the foundations of the incredibly successful Pocket Cinema camera family, taking many of the existing technical features and boasting some new additions that are more commonly found on our larger cameras to provide you with a wealth of versatile options. So I'm just going to cut into presentation mode. And let's take a look at what we will be looking at today. So firstly, we will be looking at the Pocket Cinema camera family. So we'll take a quick look at the existing features within the family, applications, notable differences, and how all that has influenced the new design of the 6K Pro. We'll go through the 6K Pro features, so discuss some of those new innovative features and ergonomic additions that the 6K Pro has brought. We'll then look at the core shared technology, so our ethos when designing all of our cameras and what unites the whole Blackmagic camera family together. We'll then take a quick look at which of these cameras is potentially right for you. So we'll look at the standout features of each of the camera in the range and discuss use cases of how that's then been implemented. We'll then touch on some real world user stories. So finally focus on different usage scenarios and target markets that the Pocket family works within. So let's begin looking at the existing range. So the 4K and 6K Pocket Cinema cameras developed on the foundation of our hugely popular and successful Pocket Cinema Camera HD. So the 4K and the 6K, so the main technological push behind the Pocket 4K came from basically the need for the Pocket camera family to shoot at higher resolution. So we've obviously boosted that within the 4K and then gone further within the 6K. So both cameras were based around the same accessible design, having the advantage of a small and lightweight 750 grams polycarbonate body, yet still producing that Blackmagic cinema quality imagery in a market that had a real need for this camera style and form factor. The entire Pocket family offer the similar core technology with an easy-to-use menu system, 13 stops of dynamic range with dual native ISO, internal B-roll recording, and unique sensor technology. Ideal for creatives needing a range of options while still retaining the critical features that you've now come to expect from our products. The Pocket 4K has the benefit of compact, lightweight lenses, keeping the overall package small due to its native 4K 4/3 sensor size and micro 4/3 lens mount. The 6K Super 35 sensor allows for better depth of field control, so that's more prominent bokeh and the ability to scale or reframe from that larger 6K resolution. With the new sensor comes a new native EF mount, enabling a wide range of superb EF lenses that are accessible and hopefully helping to support our Blackmagic customers who have existing EF glass in their locker. So let's take a look at the sensor format. So the difference between the 4K and the 6K being predominantly within this area. So here you can clearly see how that sensor size has dictated the type of lens mount and ultimately the choice of lenses that you're able to use with these cameras. And this is obviously kind of the key difference here between the 4K and the 6K. The 4K is built around that smaller, tried and tested full 4/3 format with a micro 4/3 lens mount and a full resolution of 4096 by 2160, so that full 4K DCI. The Pocket Camera 6K, on the other hand, changes this for the larger Super 35mm native 6K sensor with a built-in EF standard mount and max resolution of 6144 by 3456. And obviously what that can do is creatively and aesthetically can open up different avenues depending on what type of things you're producing. And again, using that creatively into your camera choices. So the combination of EF lenses and that super 35mm format affects the image in terms of that more prominent and shallower depth of field mentioned before, with that amplified bokeh. And that's due to that larger sensor. So this is often considered more cinematic and desirable for many customers. The super 35mm sensor with EF lenses for the 6K unleashes endless possibilities for cinematic coverages and images due to the vast array of high quality glass available. However, the choice between these cameras really does come down to your own preference. So maybe it's the lenses you've already got in stock, the types of productions that you're doing, and the main aim of what it is that you're producing. So the Pocket 4K still has a really fantastic user base of creatives using that MFT mount for lighter weight lenses, again, keeping that overall package smaller and lighter. So again, for more creative uses, potentially for productions. Some productions will use this camera for kind of run and gun or documentary work, and the main benefit there being that is you do get with that micro four thirds is the deeper depth of field. So again, you can see from the images on the slide that you're basically creating a deeper depth of field, so keeping more in focus, and that makes it easy, obviously, to keep subjects, especially moving subjects, in focus and reducing the issue of blurred subjects. So works really well in that kind of content environment. So again, when so like live events, documentary, run and gun, where potentially you are following the action, it can just make for a better overall use as obviously the end user. So in addition to the successful Pocket 4K and the 6K, which are obviously still available, we now have the newly released Pocket Cinema camera at 6K Pro. This has added some heavily requested ergonomic additions to improve both functionality and operability. So the new 6K Pro maintains the key features of the popular and successful Pocket 6K. Despite it being a new camera, we've retained the same core technology, only updating and improving upon what is already an incredible camera. You can still expect the same super 35mm sensor with dual ISO, 13 stops of dynamic range, high frame rates, native 6K recording, internal B-RAW, and Blackmagic OS. What we have done is increase the versatility, operability, and overall ease of use of the camera through additional features, both helping the creator and the product to stand apart, but yet still fitting in nicely with the rest of the lineup within the Pocket Cinema camera family. So one of the real big introductions within the 6K Pro is these new motorized internal NDs. So these were designed we basically designed our new internal motorized NDs due to a large number of customer requests who wanted to avoid having to rig their pocket cameras up with a large matte box, external filters, rod systems, which can hinder the operator in certain shooting scenarios. So again, helping to keep the form factor of the camera down, which is obviously a huge selling point of something like the Pocket Cinema camera. The NDs operate via a new slide system with the controls positioned on the top rear of the camera with ND plus and minus buttons. And those NDs are ranging from clear 2 to 4 to 6 stops. Again, we'll see a slide in a bit that will show where those button positions are, so you'll get a better idea of that. And just to give an idea of the 6 stops, it is a 2 and the 4 together to produce that 6 stops of ND. Creatively, the NDs feature infrared glass and are specifically color balanced to match our sensor, allowing the creator to use the NDs without any worry of aesthetic changes to their productions or color skews. You have the option to alter your depth of field whilst maintaining an acceptable amount of light and without the hassle of adding additional accessories. We all probably know that is the main reason of using NDs creatively. So having that now internally, I think is going to be a real benefit for this camera. So very short but sweet note here, just to mention that there is an addition of an extra high quality and reliable mini XLR port. Whereas the 4K and the 6K have the one XLR, we now have the option of 2 on the side of the camera with rubber caps covering all those IO ports for additional protection. And again, this can be detached for ease of getting into those inputs and outputs. So our mini XLRs are a professional connection, yet perfectly fit the size of the camera and maintain the same pro preamps as previous models. These analog mini XLRs are switchable between mic with phantom power support and line level up to 14 dBu. Combine this with a 3.5mm stereo input, which can be used for time code, an integrated stereo microphone, and a built-in mono speaker. There's a range of possibilities to capture and playback audio, making this iteration of the pocket camera ideal for documentary or fast-paced dialogue scenes. So another really great new addition is the new 5-inch ultra bright HDR touchscreen monitor. So with an intuitive user interface, easy to touch sensitivity, and increased brightness of 1500 nits from the 6K 700 nit screen, this is the ideal companion for outdoor use with bright sunlight or in tricky lighting situations. You can control your frame rate, shutter angle, ISO, and white balance all from that home screen, making it an efficient tool whilst on set, with the added bonus of true HDR color fidelity and reproduction. So again, we've seen a lot of people kind of adding on sun hoods and things like that within the LCD screens within the older 6K and 4K. So again, hopefully adding over double the nit brightness within the screen is really going to help combat that in outdoor brightly lit situations. And another way in which we've helped to really reduce the potential of sun glare on the LCD is that it now has an articulating mount. So the new LCD display is also connected using this articulating mount. It's 135-degree tilt functionality. You've got 90-degree upwards and 45-degree angle downwards. And in this feature, you can see the capabilities for allowing the 6K Pro to be operated in more difficult positions, providing the shooter with a range of new camera angles and possibilities without having to, again, externally rig the camera, wire into external monitors, that kind of thing. So again, this really reinforces our aim for the 6K Pro in boosting functionality and operability to the end user. So again, high angled shots, low angle shots can be a lot easier to achieve now. And again, just using what you have in front of you without having to rig externally or potentially look to wirelessly transmit for monitoring or again, cabled in. Another great feature, so we're going to move on to the optional Pocket Camera Pro EVF. This operable design was founded on a combination of customer feedback and also through our well-received 1080p OLED Ursa EVF. Customers love the ability to focus more intently through an EVF, removing any additional light that may affect the image when on screen, while simultaneously allowing for more critical focus control over the scene at hand. So you can see how adaptable this EVF is for close handheld work or when shooting run and gun style. So you can see, again, it articulates upwards. So again, if you are doing low angle stuff where you want to get your eye nice and close to that EVF and still get the camera nice and low down, this helps with this obviously moving mount. For the tilt of it. And again, hopefully what you're really gaining from this is that a lot of these features have been brought in because of, again, customer feedback and the notion that what we're trying to do here with the 6K Pro is improve upon what is already a great camera by adding some really good ergonomic features that help, for that ease of operability, and allow the camera to stay in that nice small form factor while still being able to do some really critical work like focusing, exposing. So hopefully you're seeing that. So as you can see, the detachable EVF mounts directly onto the top of the body of the camera, and just an idea, that's where you can see those ND filter buttons plus and minus. So the EVF boasts a 1280 by 960 resolution, a plus and minus 4 diopter range, and uses a proprietary connector on the top of the camera, which can be tightened or released via a nice nifty thumb screw. This helps remove the issue of tools when on set and making for a seamless transition from screen to EVF. Other exciting features include a digital focus guide with the user interface information. So again, to set that really sharp focusing down the EVF. You also get a built-in eye cup proximity detector, similar to the Ursa EVF, if you're familiar with that, which basically will switch off the display screen when not in use. So when the eye goes to the EVF, and that will obviously save power consumption. All of the power and data of the new EVF is via this proprietary high-density pin connector on the top of the camera. And the camera ships with a cover over this with a thumb screw to release that cover and obviously reveal the mounting point for that EVF. And again, that is just a thumb screw to allow that to secure nice and tightly to the top of the camera. Also, what you get with that EVF that comes within the box is some different sized silicon eye cups. So so they're provided in the box, and that includes a left and a right eye option to allow functionality and adaptability for any shooter. So you can see the EVF actually ships with a small eye cup on it. It then has a more deeper eye cup within that same sort of form factor, and then you've got the left and the right eye cup as well. So hopefully a lot of options there for different shooters and different needs, with obviously utilizing the EVF. So with the new addition of the optional pocket camera battery pro grip, you have a larger 2-cell capacity, allowing for approximately 1 hour of recording per battery, depending on your camera settings, which is quite an improvement on the 4K and the 6K. The new battery pro grip will use 2 of the NPF 570 batteries, which is obviously different to the original. And this, the battery pro grip for the 6K Pro only works with the 6K Pro. There is no need to remove the internal battery now. So instead, the battery pro grip actually connects via pins to the base of the camera, as the internal battery can now be left in, meaning you can have 3 fully charged batteries all available at once. So this is a real great feature because it allows for that hot swap ability now of batteries. If you cast your mind back to the old battery grip working with the 4K and the 6K, it actually had the dummy battery. So it actually only gave you 1 extra battery within the grip, moving from 1 to 2 with the addition of that grip. Obviously now we're moving up to 3, and there's some really clever technology in the camera that will always make sure that it's draining the battery in the actual hand grip of the camera before the 2 batteries in the sled of the battery pro grip. And again, that just reinforces that hot swap ability of those batteries. So obviously what this is perfect for is customers wishing to shoot for longer periods of time when you're out in the field and you've got limited power supplies. So here you can see how the grip screws in seamlessly into the bottom of the camera body. It also features non-slip hand grips and is designed to perfectly match the polycarbonate of the camera body, with the ability to charge the batteries in the grip via the camera's 12-volt DC power connection, should you wish to do so. So that's another great feature. So again, if you're using that 12-volt DC power connection, it actually charges all 3 of the batteries within the camera. So you've got the 2 in the grip and the 1 in the hand grip. So again, a real nice feature. So if it is that you just potentially are going to get access to power at some locations throughout a shoot day, you can obviously make sure that when you are there, that you are charging those batteries up to obviously allow for as much shooting when you don't have access to power. So let's take a look at shared technology between the cameras and explain how nothing has been compromised within these. So all of our cameras are based on the same design and shared technology, aiming for operability and simplicity, regardless of what camera you are shooting with. What makes this the best camera range is best described by what lives inside our cameras. We saw a position in the market for an accessible, small form factor camera that produces amazing images. So now we've shown you the products, so let's now see the core. Blackmagic OS is a real big one for me. Speed and efficiency is integral to operating our products. The Blackmagic OS is simple and intuitive to use, with the ability to update firmware in the field and provide more functionality. Our bright full HD touchscreens are easy to frame, focus, and shoot accurately with. There's no need for menus and rotary dials, with purely fast and logical access to show only what is needed on screen. Whether you want to change the resolution, frame rate, ISO, or view a library of LUTs and presets. The main menu allows us to set up the camera however we want to, access metadata, media, or battery levels. You can swipe or tap to add or remove settings based on other choices made, such as frame rate relating to recording format. So finally, it's worth mentioning that you can also control the camera remotely via Bluetooth on either an iPad or iPhone through the designated Blackmagic app. So again, this really reiterates that idea of trying to keep things, as a core within our product range. So again, utilizing the same menu system, and again, talking this morning earlier on the web broadcasting, all our ATEM range uses the same control software. All our cameras use the same operating system, and what that means is once you've got used to using one, it makes it very easy then to move between our products within different ranges, and and hopefully keep that ease of use, operability and efficiency, as good as possible, and ensuring that what it is that you're looking at within those menu systems are critical menus that you need to be looking at. And again, just remember, these cameras are cinema cameras designed from the ground up, and that's what those menu systems really reiterate, is those critical settings that you need to get access to be shooting some really high grade cinema quality footage. So not only does every Blackmagic design camera offer non-proprietary CFast and SD media, they also offer USB-C recording. The USB-C ports enable you to record directly to external USB-C drives or flash drives, utilizing a more cost-effective media solution with greater size capacities than smaller media cards. This is vital when shooting corporate or documentary footage, which can require long periods of time shooting. An added benefit of USB-C recording is that it also speeds up that post-production process, as you can edit or even grade from the same drives you're recording onto by simply unplugging it via the port and moving to a workstation to begin your edit. Power is also supported via that USB-C, so enabling you to charge batteries in the camera via USB-C. The only thing here is to ensure that the camera is turned off before doing this, as you can't run the camera live simultaneously like you can with the 12-volt DC power connection. So a key example of our technical development is in our dual ISO sensors, only available in our Pocket camera family. It was developed as customers in this market space were looking to shoot in lower available light at higher resolutions. We built our own proprietary sensors beginning in 2015 with the Ursa 4.6K, and what we have learned, we've been improving upon ever since. We combat the low light through our dual native ISO, which goes up to 25,600 for HDR images and incredible low light performance, with native low gain and high gain at 400 and 3200 ISO respectively. As a result, you have the flexibility and adaptability of choosing your desired ISO while still retaining integral dynamic range, sensitivity, and latitude within the camera. And again, I think that really shows the reason this camera was pushed out there, the reason we knew this camera would sit in a market where customers were screaming out for cameras like this. Small form factor, can shoot high grade images in low light, great low light performance, with still retaining all that high dynamic range. And again, it really shows how we've really pushed this product to the customer focus that obviously we've seen in the marketplace. Okay, so Blackmagic RAW is again a huge feature within the camera, and it's our own internal proprietary format. So Blackmagic RAW integrates our technology between camera and post-production, optimizing color fidelity throughout the chain. And I think that's a real big thing again to mention in this, and it's seen within our product pools in different ranges for different kind of production needs. But we really like to have that control. So again, working with our cameras and then working with our software allows us to create that pipeline and have that control between the different sections of production. What that means is we can do more with it. We can use DaVinci to kind of scope towards what we're doing in camera. We can use what we're doing in camera to scope towards how we advance DaVinci. And again, remember that you buy one of the Pocket cinema cameras and you actually get a license of DaVinci Studio free with the camera. And again, I just think that's a really good thing, that we're giving you the tools needed to not only go out and shoot the video, but also have some really high-end tools to be able to cut that together and then output a really high production value piece of content. So it's first and foremost designed Blackmagic RAW for preserving and the protection of dynamic range and color precision image information, without discarding color and image detail, which results in a substandard clip. B-RAW processes only the sensor data and relies on post-production to de-bayer and create the video information. Secondly, efficiency in recording is key, and compared to other RAW formats, which are often just huge buckets of pixels that demand a lot of processing, we work hand in hand with our sensor technology, leveraging the processing power in the camera to help reduce file sizes and deliver the same bit depth, dynamic range, and control as RAW with information encoded and saved in metadata. So again, thinking about the way we can, maximize this pipeline, make it more efficient, and make it, easier to operate and use as a customer, in the sense of, trying to reduce file sizes, meaning that you're still working in a really high quality, top end sort of video file, but in something that is much more manageable, and again will work really well natively with our DaVinci Resolve software. So finally, we have the ability to complete the chain by finishing and working in DaVinci Resolve post-production, the world's most used and well-renowned grading software, and that is now unified by our Generation 5 color science. So our new 6K Pro was built around the Generation 5 color science, which will also be included in the 4K and 6K. So it's developed with DaVinci Resolve technology and IP processing within the camera. So again, looking at that full pipeline and how we can work with it all to maximize our products. Our color science underpins our sensor performance, reproducing extremely accurate skin tones, image clarity, and beautiful lifelike colors like never before. Through our ever-evolving development, we fine-tuned our color science to allow creators to match both archive and current footage to perfection. And this is a real benefit, I think, with the newly introduced Generation 5 color science, is that matchability, and we're seeing it a lot in productions currently. Color fidelity and color reproduction are the most important qualities of an image, helping to create that richness that we all know and love. Building upon the popular Gen 4 color science, Gen 5 is a fantastic addition, as it can be easily manipulated and worked with within DaVinci Resolve to produce vivid colors and accurate representations of what the camera is capturing. We feel you cannot compromise on any of the unifying technology of our cameras. The ease of use and operability of the Blackmagic OS, the available light possibilities from our dual ISO sensors, the efficiency and image preservation of our Blackmagic RAW, and color fidelity and reproduction from our new Generation 5 color science. These 4 areas encapsulate what you need in a camera to create cinematic images, something which is shared throughout our core technology. So now we're going to look at which of these cameras potentially could be right for you. So with the new look additional features of the 6K Pro, now probably is a good time to think about which of these could be best for you if it is that you're looking within this type of camera range. Now, the short response is that it primarily depends on what technology you're looking for and the unique project or scenarios that you'll be faced with. However, for a more in-depth answer, let's look at the primary differences that separate these cameras within the family. So this diagram is showing 6 areas that you would consider as a camera operator when choosing your desired camera. It's not exhaustive, but typically you'd look at frame rates, dynamic range, ND filters, resolution, sensor size, and rolling shutter. First and foremost, the Pocket 4K strength really lies in its faster rolling shutter readouts of approximately 60 milliseconds, resulting in a more sensitive sensor and better handling of available light situations. So again, just reiterating that with the 4K being at the bottom of the range, it allows for generally cheaper, smaller, lightweight lenses. And again, having a faster rolling shutter readout means that it's able to work better with available light solutions and situations. So if it is that you haven't got money to be investing in additional light sources, and again, more expensive EF glass and things like that, the 4K sits really nicely in that position. And gives a kind of really good overall package for that, that type of work. And again, being at the bottom of the budget range. Obviously, combining that with our dual ISO really helps to combat that issue of low light situations while still retaining all that high dynamic range and latitude. We also have the smaller 4K 4/3 sensor. The smaller size and resolution are often better suited for documentaries and ENG shooters, as they prefer a deeper depth of field, and also the wide range of lightweight, small micro 4/3 lenses that the sensor brings. Finally, we have the Pocket 4K's frame rates of up to 60 in native 4K or 120 in HD windowed to create cinematic slow motion effects within a compact form factor camera. So as mentioned previously, we've seen our Pocket Cinema Camera 4K used for a wide variety of applications. Where we tend to see the 4K is predominantly in event videography, where the demand nowadays is for a more cinematic approach. Online content creators also use it for YouTube content due to its ability to work with our ATEM streaming products, or independent film productions who prefer the compactness and versatility of the camera compared to a DSLR or mirrorless. And again, just picking up on that point of the newly released update with the Pocket Cinema cameras and that communication now within the A10 mini range, and some of the other A10 ranges, again with some of the needing some of the bi-directional converters. But what that allows for is, again, it kind of opens up a whole new avenue for these products to be working, in a real variety of different production scenarios. Finally, we work very closely with film school and universities, acting as an educational camera for students. The ease of use and accessibility of the camera really makes it an obvious choice for creatives starting out in the industry. And again, once you get used to that Blackmagic OS operating system for setting up the cameras, going through the menu systems, again, it becomes very easy then to scale that up as you move on to our larger, more expensive cameras through the range, and hopefully keeping it, the learning curve down and sort of efficiency when picking up a new camera nice and quick. Moving swiftly on to the Pocket 6K, you can already see the change in the diagram, which was highlighted. The key changes obviously lie in that higher native 6K resolution. The benefits include the ability to downsample to produce a cleaner image, so sharper images in a 4K or 2K deliverable. Reframing or rescaling, with stabilization in post. If you've ever done stabilization, you will know that it normally will crop in a little bit on the image. So again, having that 6K native to work with for your 4K deliverable will be a real benefit if doing things like that. Obviously, creating multiple shots in one frame, obviously if you're working on a 1080p HD timeline, even more so. And ultimately to ensure that your work is future proof. So again, shooting in 6K, even if you're delivering now in 1080, might mean that when you go, if for any reason you want to go back and remaster that, you've got that 6K archive to go back to and master at a higher resolution. Pair the 6K with a larger Super 35mm sensor, and you get the incredible resolution in a compact form factor with access to a wide variety of more cinematic EF glass, due to obviously the native EF mount. And this, as we mentioned previously, allows for that shallower depth of field, so more cinematic and more notable bokeh. There is also a slight change in the frame rates, with 60 frames per second now available in the native 6K resolution. So the Pocket 6K has been used fundamentally by creatives desiring cinematic aesthetics. Users include music video creators who often move on to larger cinematic TV dramas and feature film productions, large-scale advertising, commercial productions, including fashion, corporate events utilize the cameras, often using many in unison for perfect image matching in post-production. We've also seen a high amount of independent films using the 6K due to the increased resolution and Super 35mm sensor. So finally, we have the 6K Pro. Nothing has changed from the 6K sensor or the core technological capabilities of the camera. The difference here is the inclusion of those internal motorized NDs. Putting the other additions of the 6K Pro aside, the NDs help the 6K Pro sit nicely in between the 6K and the Ursa G2. As we've already explained, it acts as an alternate solution to the Pocket Cinema Camera 6K by hosting some additional ergonomic functions that can really help to complement a larger camera system. The benefit of those internal motorized NDs is to allow the creator to shoot in that wide aperture without overexposing, with the benefits of the shallower depth of field that can bring, and selective focus effects while under constrained lighting conditions. And obviously just reiterating that fact of without having to then try and, work with those large external rigging situations. The other additional 6K Pro upgrades, such as the new HDR screen, battery pro grip, and EVF, are based on functionality and operability. The internal NDs are the perfect complement to the 6K sensor, all working together to create the best camera possible for the user. So although the Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro has only recently been released, we really do think that with the new features, we see this camera sitting in a wide variety of markets. The Pocket family has always been used as a handheld device or with gimbals, including run and gun documentary filmmakers, location scouts, or even pickups on larger films. Specialist productions such as VFX works, crash cam stunts, or non-intrusive situations are also ideal due to that small form factor and high image quality. Matching our color science with larger cameras creates seamless transitions when working in high-end Hollywood features or complementing bigger productions. So here's just a little comparison of those three cameras, showing where the main strengths lie on the 4K, the 6K, and the 6K Pro. And obviously, you know, we've been through that, but you can see the core standout features between the range, and hopefully it's helped to guide you as to what might actually be the best fit for you. So in this final section, we want to highlight some fantastic customer stories who've chosen Blackmagic Design for their creative work with complete end-to-end workflows from sensor to codec through to post-production. So again, just reiterating that, you know, that we are a company that like to create those end-to-end workflows. And I think that's a really powerful thing to allow someone to be able to understand a little bit more simply without having to run to multiple manufacturers how something can work in a given ecosystem. And hopefully shows how much, you know, we're trying to support our customer base. So we'll start by looking at cinematographer Martin Kavinsky and his wedding production company, Kako Films. So Martin is an award-winning wedding photographer based in the Czech Republic. He's creating high-end cinematic wedding films all over the world, primarily on the Pocket 4K and using our entire workflow extensively and exclusively. Martin films in a documentary style to interrupt as little as possible and truly capture the emotional moments of such a special occasion that can obviously never be recreated. And with that small compact size of the Pocket 4K being, you know, super ideal for this kind of work. He emphasizes his need for superb color grading and high image quality with a filmic look throughout his pipeline. Combine this with the requirement for lots of storage to film an entire wedding. He chooses to film in B-RAW for reduced file sizes whilst maintaining that impeccable color fidelity and dynamic range. The entirety of his projects are edited and grading using DaVinci Resolve for that complete end-to-end Blackmagic Design workflow. Another exciting customer story centers around a social media campaign for the Mercedes-AMG A-Class, which was shot by DP Matteo Bertolli with a Pocket Cinema Camera 6K in Blackmagic RAW. So the entire project, shot on location in Frankfurt, Germany, involved tracking and lighting a moving car through the streets and traffic. Matteo utilized the native 6K resolution and dual ISO against minimal existing streetlights to help create the drama of the nighttime driving shots, combined with a very fluid contemporary dancer in some studio scenes. So Matteo has used a Pocket cinema camera for a long time now, shooting B-RAW at 5:1 and 3:1 compression rates in 6K at 48 and 24 frames a second, benefiting from the power of RAW in such small and efficient file sizes. So it's edited and graded completely within DaVinci Resolve Studio, again, providing that end-to-end pipeline of Blackmagic Design products. So a UK-based commercial agency, Still Moving Media, recently completed a project promoting the launch of a new Aston Martin Concorde edition with British Airways, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the iconic Concorde's first flight. Still Moving Media used a Pocket Camera 4K to deliver their client's vision of tracking and chasing an Aston Martin on a closed airfield. It was chosen for its compact design and lightness when rigging cameras directly to a vehicle, while still providing internal RAW recording and the ability to use EF glass through a lens adapter for superior image quality. Still Moving Media were able to record in CFast in RAW via SDI direct to our own Blackmagic Design Video Assist, which was held by the first AD in the car. The performance and color science of the camera provided incredible creative options in post-production, with the project being fully edited and graded in DaVinci Resolve. And now to finish on a fairly high-profile case that involves the DOP John Brawley using a combination of our Ursa Mini Pro 4.6K G2 and Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. The Great is a 2020 satirical costume drama streaming on Hulu, starring Ellie Fanning and Nicholas Hoult. Whilst John shot the majority of A-camera footage with an Arri Alexa SXT, he often used a G2 and Pocket Cinema Camera 4K at the same time, shooting in Blackmagic RAW. As John mentioned, Blackmagic's range of cameras gave me the most flexibility and choice when approaching a shot. I can use any camera and know I'll get great shots. An example would be when hero close-ups of Ellie Fanning was shot using the Pocket Cinema camera in handheld mode. This is a shot that just couldn't have been achieved with a larger camera system. The images from the Arri and Blackmagic cameras were seamlessly matched in post-production, as he felt the looks, colours and dynamic range felt quite similar. And they basically made some LUTs in pre-production using DaVinci Resolve that were monitored on set. So, in summary, we've explored the key innovative developments of the new Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro and where it sits in the Pocket family. We've seen how the new ergonomic additions can enhance your production, allowing for more creativity and operability when filming. We also took a look at where we see the 6K Pro fitting into the market, and I've given you some Pocket family use cases. However, I'm sure you've got a ton of questions that you'd like to ask, so let's move into the Q&A. If you do have any additional questions after the webinar, please do reach out to us at presales-emea@blackmagicdesign.com. Again, many thanks for joining me today and taking the time. I hope you found this webinar useful and insightful. And we will now jump into Q&A mode.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's massively appreciated, as always. If you have any questions, guys, throw them in the chat and we can pass them over to Chris. Or after the fact, as Chris said, we're always available to answer questions. We actually only have one question in the chat, but I've got another one, so it's not just a single question you're getting away with. You're not getting off that easily, Chris. But the question we have,
That's what it's all about, the Q&As. We really want to make sure that we're here and listening. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. So the question we have is actually from Jeff, who's asked, does the license that you get with a camera come with the speed editor for DaVinci Resolve as well?
It doesn't. No, that is available as a promotion when bought together. So you buy the speed editor to get DaVinci Resolve, or you buy DaVinci Resolve and get the speed editor. The way it works with the camera is that it is just an additional thing for the customer to get hold of. And no, unfortunately, it doesn't ship with the speed editor now.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. So Michael's asked if this session has been recorded. So yes, Michael, this has been recorded. There is an embargo in the way, so we're not able to send it out immediately after this session. Other resellers have to have their chance of live streaming as well. So once we are able to send those out, they will be sent out. If you email our Pro Video email address, which, you know what, I will put it in the chat right now so that people can make a note of it, for anyone that wants to email us about this or about anything. If you email that email address and just express your interest in getting a copy of the recording of today, as soon as we're able to send those out, we will do. The other question I had for you, Chris, and this was actually one of my own sort of queries, is you mentioned that obviously the Pocket 6K comes with this proprietary connector for the viewfinder, the new viewfinder, and
yes,
whilst the new viewfinder looks phenomenal, and the Ursa, the Blackmagic have good track records with viewfinders like the Ursa viewfinder. I was wondering if there was any word on whether or not that would be the pinout for that connector would ever be made available so that third parties might be able to make accessories or viewfinders to fit on the 6K Pro.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and one that I've had a couple of times, to be fair. And I know there has been some talk about being able to adapt the EVF and potentially mount it other places with obviously cabling into the connection on the camera. It's not something that we have available yet, but I know it is in talks internally. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled on the website, and that is the best place to be looking. If any new updates drop, whether it be firmware, software, products, hardware, that's where you'll see it. But yeah, obviously I'll let you know, Alistair, if and when anything comes up. But at the moment, I know it's just in kind of talk stage at the moment. But yeah, certainly a good question, and something that I'm aware of that's being looked into.
Well, that's it. There's quite a big market for accessories for Blackmagic cameras as it is, so it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing things popping up, relatively quickly for the 6K Pro.
Yeah, I mean, as you know from all our stuff, we're very transparent in trying to give as much detail on our products as possible, and let users adapt and build on the fantastic technology that we have implemented into our products. So yeah, I'm sure everything is being done to ensure that if that is possible, it will be out there soon.
No, that's fantastic. I think that's all we've got in the way of questions, unless anyone's furiously typing at the moment. I might give it just a minute or two before we round this out. But again, this is the second webinar we've had with you today, Chris, and we really appreciate your time today to go through both web streaming and the pocket cameras in this webinar. And it's absolutely fantastic. Another question: what lens adapters will be available?
So again, the ones I think that we have available, I mean, obviously there is a lot of third-party sort of potential out there at the moment, but let's just have a look what we have available. Yeah, so I think you'd be looking at sort of Metabones and stuff like that. We don't actually have any manufactured for our Pocket family range that we manufacture ourselves to adapt that mount. Obviously, there are quite a few options out there from third-party manufacturers that will allow for things like EF to PL, MFT to EF, and things like that. So, to be honest, Alistair's probably the best person to speak to there as the reseller who's able to really give you a wide variety of options of what's available.
Yeah, we're more than happy to help you look at your options. So again, you can email us at that Scan Pro Video email address, and we can help you find the right lens adapter for you really. We've also had another question come in from Michael, who's just asked, where does this range sit compared to the Ursa Mini? If you don't mind giving us just a sort of brief overview of the differences between the two, and why someone might go with the Pocket or the Ursa.
I mean, really, the main thing there has got to be in form factor of the camera. Obviously, the Ursa being a more traditional sort of cinema ENG style body that's obviously a lot larger, a lot bigger, a lot heavier. Where I see these fitting really well is almost like an A and a B cam. So the Ursa, the 4.6K G2, being a nice A cam. So again, tripod mounted, a couple of people working around the camera, focus assist, all that kind of thing. And then the Pocket camera being that really versatile camera that again is using the same sort of color science, shooting the same proprietary codecs, and allowing for that really seamless match within post-production. And that's where I kind of see it. So they very much work in unison. I don't really, unless it is that you're doing a one camera shoot, then really, I mean, things like form factors going to come down massively to it, I would say. Again, resolution, you've got 6K in the Pockets, 4.6K in the Ursa. And again, yeah, I think it will be very much project orientated if it is that you're looking at one or the other. I think, depending on what type of projects you're doing, I think that will probably push you down one of the routes more than anything else.
Well, Michael's come back and said he's thinking more for use with the ATEM for sort of studio and production use. So using the Pocket cinema camera with an ATEM Mini, or using an Ursa or a studio camera. Now, I know there's been some new converters that make the camera control possible with the Pocket camera in different ATEM ranges, as well as the studio cameras and the Ursa cameras with the ATEM Minis.
Yes. I mean, really, if it really depends on what you're doing in the sense of that production. So is it, if it's 4K, the A10 Mini is out of the question because the A10 Mini is capped at 1080p 60. The great thing about the A10 Minis and how they work with our pocket cinema cameras is for that very plug and play ethos that the Mini is kind of orientated around, is that the Blackmagic pocket cinema cameras cannot output anything above 1080p 60. So if you're looking to plug that camera into the A10, you know instantly it's only able to work in that top resolution out of that output through the HDMI. So there's no way of basically sending something that is above and beyond what the A10 Mini can accept. Also, what's happened recently is you've had that update that's allowed for the cross communication via HDMI. So if it is that you are going camera, like I am here, literally camera into my A10 Mini Pro via HDMI, I now get all my camera control within the camera tab of the software, the control software, which gives me, you know, shutter, iris, white balance. It gives me focus. It gives me color, so I can do any kind of color matching from, you know, remotely from the software with this. Really, to be honest, it's probably something that will actually need a little bit of discussing. So if you want to get in touch with us at that pre-sales email address, I'll happily either jump on a call or just direct over email some discussions of how we can look to where potentially might be the right sort of product for you. Because again, there are a lot of things to kind of think about. And again, we look at future proofing. You know, we're getting a lot of people now coming in looking at the pocket cameras for studio environments, because maybe this money that they've got is, you know, I use education as a great example, where sometimes they'll get hold of some money and this might be the investment for 2 years. And, you know, where the pocket cinema camera works really well is that obviously you've got all this native work now with our A10 Mini range, but you take that camera off the pedestal in the studio and take it outside, and you've got a high grade cinema camera that can shoot, you know, if it's a 6K resolution, 13 stops of dynamic range with B-raw. So again, using the versatility of that investment, you've got studio and cinema, and again, it can be very adaptable there. So again, you know, maybe it's something to discuss. But yeah, please get in touch with us, and I'll happily get back to you, and we can discuss that properly.
For more information on any of the products and solutions mentioned in this webinar, contact the Pro Video team today. And you can also shop our Blackmagic design range at Scan Pro Video. If you haven't checked out our other sessions yet, then head over to the Pro Video YouTube channel and search Blackmagic Design Webinars. Thanks for watching.